what's going on, everybody? So, I wanted to get on to another stream. It seems like the fear continues to grow for that there won't be an altcoin season. Yeah, I say if there was a fear and greed indicator for altcoins, I don't know that there is one, but if there is, I would say it would be at like all the way on the fear side, like below 20. For fear. People are very fearful that we're not going to have an altcoin season. Yeah, I see it more and more every day. So we're going to look at some things. And I think ETH is the main thing that we talk about. When we talk about altcoins, that ETH needs to break this level and go up. I've also talked about liquidity bonding a lot in previous streams. If ETH goes up, if ETH gets into price discovery without a single dollar going into any coin that's on ETH or a layer 2 on ETH, they're all going to go up. And that's why, because they're bonded with ETH in their liquidity pools. So that's going to be a big point. But also we're holding this trend line. This is from 2022. And I mean, look at the support off this trend line. And so you got a fake break below it. That's normally a good thing. And still holding above. And it's also a double bottom here to this. So a long wick double bottom. I like that. I like to see wiki double bottoms. That's what I call them, wiki double bottoms, when you get two long wicks for the double bottom. So that's good. This trend line is good. I also say a lot that big candles start and finish trends. Okay, big candle, that was the starter. And then this is the kind of finisher. And that doesn't mean you go up immediately. I mean, generally you don't. I say V-shaped recoveries are rare. So you probably won't go up immediately. They got to fight on smaller time frames. A lot of traders are trying to use high leverage and jump longs when they think the market's made a bottom. So it normally takes a little while to shake all of that out. People will believe no altcoin season are silly, man. So much money is entering. 95% of tokens are near zero. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody have their own opinion. I don't call anybody silly or whatever, but I do think that I'm in the camp that I think we'll have an altcoin season. But we're gonna look at some things because nothing's a guarantee, and I put that out, and everything I put out, even is not financial advice. Everybody knows how this game goes. But yeah, and I've seen some experienced people out there tweeting that they don't think there'll be an altcoin season. Let's go, Josh, big medicator. Like I said before, Gray Mountain. Danny the Bull in the house. What's up, Danny? So going back to the ETH chart, we know this has been a long accumulation for ETH. You can draw this as like a triangle. There's a lot of different patterns you can draw in here. But I think you can say everyone can agree it's been a long ranging period for ETH. All right. So one of the, I guess you could say the godfather of markets almost is Wyckoff. Like you hear the name all the time, Wyckoff. All right. Wyckoff has three laws of markets that are very notable and referred to a lot. And number two is the law of cause and effect. And basically what this means is the longer the accumulation, the stronger the uptrend. And specifically what he's talking about here is what we've been seeing in Bitcoin. Accumulation, uptrend. Then ranging period, where you get some change in hands and then breakout and uptrend. And that's what we've been seeing. So the longer the accumulation, in theory, the longer and stronger the breakout. So that would be a big check for ETH, assuming that it's going to go up. I mean, nothing is a for sure, but it's had a long ranging period, which, by the book by Wyckoff himself says that, the longer the ranging period, the stronger the breakout should be. And that normally does hold true. So also want to point out that this tweet I made the other day, where if you put the risk reward on a chart for ETH and shorted it. So if you were to short it from current price and put the stop loss above the local high, a little over 4,000 or whatever, and shorted it all the way to zero, the risk reward would only be 1.8, 1 to 1.8. That's not even a 2-to-1 trade, shorting it all the way to zero, and it's not going to go to zero. Even if we don't have an alt season, even if the market tanks, ETH is not going to go to zero. But if you long it and use the local lows for your stop loss, just going to the local swing high, not even talking about price discovery or anything, is a 1 to 2.4, which seems more attractive to you, So, once again, not a guarantee, but that's how traders will look at it. And this will contradict what I just said, but I'll explain this as well. So, and I think people have probably seen this floating out there, that the largest short positions in history are being open for ETH right now. So, you just showed that traders would look at it to where they long it more than short it. Yeah, well, big money on higher time frames, going off the weekly and daily, they're buying on spot, and that's what they would look at it. That's how they would look at it. Now, all these shorts, they can be, targeting smaller time frames, or, which is more likely, it can be manipulation, because a lot of this is coming from hedge funds too. So they'll put their shorts out there, and they'll get other people to put their shorts out. Then they can just pull their shorts. But what this is, it's exactly what I wanted to see. A lot of shorts piling up, because that's what causes the short squeeze. This is all fuel to catapult ETH into price discovery. So, because you see this going on all the time right now. It's been a big story about market makers and Binance and Coinbase sending their assets to these market makers, and the market makers, selling or buying or whatever. So if there's a whole lot of shorts and a pool of liquidity, the market makers will push price there and get that liquidity and liquidate those people. So, the way I see it, on high time frames and the way big money's look at it, the better trade for ETH is definitely to the upside. And then you're getting all these shorts coming in that will hopefully fuel the market. Also, and I don't have it readily available, but the ETF data, it's been like, I think the last 8 trading days, 7 have been inflows and 1 was zero. No inflows or outflows. So, that goes to show you again, and we all know, we don't have to go over it, Trump and people like that are buying ETH. So, a lot of good things, in my opinion, when you look at ETH. What's up, HG? Yeah, that's a good question. I guess we'll find out. I still think that the bias is to the upside, but we'll have to see. Because a lot of and I've seen more people, more experienced people lately talking about no altcoin season. And that's why I'm going over some of these things. And then as far as BTC goes, all right. So I hear one thing, the reason why people saying BTC is going to go down is because of a CME gap. All right. So I think a lot of people out there listening don't even know what a CME gap is. It's very easy to explain. So there's a Bitcoin futures. It's like a trading house, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. A CME gap is when, okay, so crypto trades 24/7. Most assets don't. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange doesn't trade over the weekend. So a CME gap is where the price closes on Friday at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and where it opens on Monday. And if there's a gap there, the theory is that it tends to get filled. Now, how often? You look here, 65% of the time. So it's not a slam dunk for sure. Now, if you want to see what these CME gaps are, it's extremely easy to look, because there's a chart for the CME futures, Chicago Mercantile Exchange futures. It's like, yeah, it's Bitcoin and an exclamation point. So you see this gap right here, this is the one in question right now. So, and that goes down to 77K. Yeah. So, and that's the theory. So do these gaps have to get filled? No, they absolutely do not have to get filled. And we're going to look at some right now as we go back on the chart, because there's important ones that at opportune times that didn't get. So this one right here, that didn't get filled right there from 20K or whatever. See, price never came back down. And you have people waiting for this gap. And what was kind of funny about this one, it came down to fill this gap here, but then left another one. So maybe the CME guys didn't get left behind too bad on this one. There's one notable one. So, and lots of times I see like on trends. So this didn't get filled, this downtrend to the bear market, this didn't get filled. Well, you could say technically this got filled eventually over here, but I count that as not really getting filled. And I remember going into the last bull market, there was a CME gap. Okay, and here's so uptrend, once again, not filled. And I guess you could say if you go way to the right, eventually it did get filled. But to me, that's not getting filled. I don't count that as being filled. Right there as well. And there was one around 9K. Yeah, here. It didn't get filled. All right, because I remember this. There was a bunch of geniuses out there saying the CME gap was going to get filled. And they weren't getting in the market. Even when it was going up here, they're like, nope, that CME gap's going to get filled. And they just stuck to their guns. And even when it came down in the bear market and was going close to 15K, I seen some tweets saying that the CME gap at 9K was finally going to get filled or whatever. So the point of this is, the CME gap, I'm not saying it's nothing. If you were to trade just off of CME gaps and say you put limit orders to buy or sell, if it's the other way around, you're going to win more than half the time. So I'm not saying that it means nothing, but I also don't think that it is some magical, because there's a CME that has to get filled. And you see that when it's trending harder in markets, that's when it tends to not be filled more often. So we'll look at our friend BTC dominance. This relates to altcoin season and Bitcoin. All right. So I talked about this a few times. To me, this doesn't suggest okay, we're going to keep going up. At least not trending up. Double top, long wick. It's almost like a fake out wick, long wick above the double top. Now you do get candles closing above this one candle, but then no real follow through. So if it was a little bit higher and consolidating above this, then maybe you could say it's breaking the high and consolidating above the range. But even so, with this long wick here, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, BTC dominance is not a tradable asset, but it does seem to respect technical analysis. So I don't look at this the same way as I would Bitcoin necessarily. I think you got to kind of give the chart a little bit of grace, so to speak. But long wick on BTC dominance. I said on a Twitter Spaces that I did that it was the longest wick in BTC dominance history. I did find one longer, but you have to go back here. Wait, I have it marked, so we'll see it. Okay, so yeah, September 21. This wick here was longer. That one. So still long wick. Either way you look at it. And that led into higher prices for alts, the fall of 21. And what's interesting here, you see it, October is, BTC Dom was actually going up, when alts were having a pretty good rally. This time BTC was going to the all-time high of the cycle. So maybe it was here on the backslide of that when alts had their bigger gains. I think it probably would, going through the end of the year. But alts were still doing pretty good through here with dominance going up. But just such a long wick on the daily at an area of resistance. I just think that the odds are more for it to say that this was more of a local top than that we're going to continue and go up here and go to 70%. It can, we all went over how Rec Capital says it's going to go to 70%, but just market structure wise as well, it's in this channel. I said it would have to break to the upside of that channel, which is a low probability move. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's a low probability move, or stay in the channel and get to 70K, which in that case, it would be like the beginning of 2026, which I don't really see that either. I would say anything can happen, but few other things to look at. I like this right here. Bitcoin addresses held by, so these are small holders here, 0.0001 to 1 BTC, 1 to 10 BTC. And you look over the last 30 and 90 days, how much they've been selling. Then you look at big wallets, 10 to 100 and 100 plus. Last 30 and 90 days is the opposite. They've been buying. And this is something that you can see marks bottoms sometimes, because it shows that the retail, smaller holders, whatever you want to call it, they are they're selling and the bigger entities are buying. So here's another one showing you just how much MicroStrategy and BlackRock are buying since middle of November to today. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of Bitcoin that they're gobbling up. So, I don't think that they're buying that because I think it's going to go down. I mean, Michael Saylor, he's not really a technical analysis guy, but when you buy it like that, it's got to help support the price. Even if he's buying an OTC, even if he's using some kind of algorithm bot that's trying not to affect the price. And then I found this interesting too, that if you break down the selling, like how much Grayscale sold, and then Germany as well, that was, you add those two numbers together, it's like 400,000. Then the net sold by everybody else is only like 150,000 more than that. So, and Grayscale's holdings are significantly less now. So I'm not saying that, and I think that people that got the Grayscale discount, I think all those people have sold. I think they're out of the market. And I think that that's affected ETH as well. And for anybody's not aware, that Grayscale, because you didn't know the ETF was going to get approved. So if you bought into the Grayscale ETF, you got a discount. And depending on where you were in the market, depending on the discount, but you still bought it at a discount. And then the ETF for ETH got approved afterwards. So the selling from Grayscale ETF, obviously that's going to linger longer than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's got approved in January. So just all good things here. When you break down, step back and take a look at some of the data that we're seeing. When alts pan. So I can't say for sure when, but I do feel like they're going to. And I hear all the counterpoints that, well, there's more coins this cycle and stuff like that. I don't think the ones on Pump Fund that coming out every 10 seconds are really going to affect that much to where you say altcoin season's canceled. I think if you focus somewhere in between, the top 1,000 coins still should do fine. People were saying the same thing last market cycle, that there was too many coins and that altcoin season was canceled right before altcoin season. They're saying the same thing. Doesn't mean that it can't be different this time, but yeah, I would expect hopefully ETH will lead the way, and ETH will get its breakout, and that short squeeze will fuel it, and that'll be what triggers our alt season. There's also a couple other things going on. The FTX money is coming back out soon. Excuse me. And you got some other alts, ETFs that are likely to get approved. Litecoin. I actually saw Litecoin and Doge had better odds to get approved than Solana, but Solana and XRP as well. I would think it would be XRP, Solana, Litecoin, and Doge, but it was actually the odds were, and this is from Eric Balkunis, who is the guy who's like the ETF guy. He had it rated as Litecoin, Doge, then Solana and XRP. Either way, I think likely all four of those are coming. Now, that can mark a top if they come later in the year, but I don't think right now that thing that normally doesn't happen when you're sliding into the bear market. And when you look at all these like major altcoins, they're all like bear market support or like a real strong support level. They bounced off a bunch of times. And if you look back in time, wherever it bounced off that, the sentiment was terrible then too. If sentiment's good, then price isn't going to be that low. Josh, what's up, bro? So me and Josh going to try to do a live stream sometime, Josh, from Alpha First. So hopefully that'll come up soon. Josh Fleck in the house. When moon? Well, like I said, I can't say exactly when. Now, when would be maybe some invalidation to some of this? Like, okay, if you say, maybe we need to call it quits. Maybe, when maybe we can see that it's just not going to happen. Maybe if total 3 breaks below this high and kind of trades down here. Well, total 3 doesn't trade, but you see what I'm saying? Like, and starts printing candles down here. and it's kind of accepting this zone down here, and the candles don't look very good, that could be a sign. I don't even think if Bitcoin goes down to 70K or something like that, that necessarily means it's over. Now, don't get me wrong, altcoins will get punished even more. But if BTC dominance drops with Bitcoin dropping, maybe altcoins can at least hang in there somewhat. BTC still in this range, on the weekly. I mean, when you look back and this candle you're telling me that this candle right here was the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. It didn't start a downtrend, so I don't know. It just seems like that's more confirmation about it going up, not down. Like, to me, that's a big point for it going up. A third of the OTC supply was removed in January. I saw some data similar to that as well about how much OTC was bought in January. Now, I tried to find out how much OTC supply was out there, and it's a Glassnode had it, but you had to pay for the upgraded whatever, and I didn't do all that. But yeah, that's definitely a thing, that the OTC supply and these big entities buying it up. If the OTC supply dries out, they got to buy it from the spot market, and then that'll definitely pump the price. About Jerome Powell's testifying to Congress tomorrow about the fight against inflation. Yeah, that'll probably be some good stuff come out of that. I know that people are still kind of sticking to his words from December about how he said there would only be 1 to 2 rate cuts, I think, this year. Trump wasn't even in office then. I mean, Trump wants rate cuts. I mean, he doesn't control the Fed, but I think that there's a pretty good chance that that statement won't end up holding to be true, and that we'll have more rate cuts than that. And especially with Doge, all this government efficiency, whatever, the Elon Musk thing is really hot right now. You're seeing it all over the place. It's a big story right now. And I know they are finding a lot of wasteful government spending. And don't get me wrong, I think the United States government is extremely wasteful with their spending. However, the majority of the debt comes, if I'm not mistaken, like 70% of the debt comes from 3 items. And it's not really you can do much about it. One, the military. Trump's not going to cut military spending. If anything, he's more likely to increase it. Social Security, they're not going to cut that. That's very unpopular to cut. And then the third thing is the interest on the debt. And that's actually the biggest one by far. So they can do something like that if interest rates cut and they refinance the debt. So if they really want to lower spending in the debt, then they have to lower rates and refinance the debt. That's all they can do. How to get in a Telegram? Just hit me or Danny the Bull up, and we'll set you up. Working on our website where, I have a website now, but we're revamping it to where you can sign up from the website and pay with a credit card even. So that's coming soon. Right now, for the rest of February, I think we'll say like $325 for the year when we do it by the year. And this will probably be the last year that I do it. But there's a lot going on in there. Obviously, everything I put out is a guy named Rock, who's a funded trader who operates off ICT principles, and he puts out like almost daily technical analysis. We got an NFT expert, a lot of things going on in there. And I'll be putting out when I buy and sell things as well. So one thing I want to do, and I've read this story before in a stream that I did a while back, but it comes from a book called Volume Price Analysis by Anna Cooling. And I actually know Anna Cooling a little bit. I did a stream with her on my Telegram, actually. It's not public. It's just it's on there though. And we talked for about an hour and a half on that stream. And a lot of people consider this book kind of like the Bible for volume. If you want to know about like volume in markets, like it's the most popular book that I'm aware of when it comes to volume in markets and how to use volume. But there's a story in this book that it really has always stuck with me. And there's another smart guy. He's actually in the Telegram. He's got his own channel. He puts out stuff. His name's Ern. And when he read this book, he didn't know that I had thought a lot. This story was really important, and he mentioned it. So how this story stuck with him as well too. So I'm gonna finish up the stream and read this. If you don't want to listen to it, that's all good. But I'm telling you, I think that this story It's about markets and how retail and stuff like that. And I think that you'll get a lot out of it. But yeah, and it's about how markets work and retail and the news and stuff like that. It's a made up story. It's, kind of like an analogy or whatever. Yeah, it starts out saying, this is an article I wrote for Stocks and Commodities magazine many years ago. I called it the Parable of Uncle Joe. I made some minor changes, but the essence of the article remains the same as originally published. All right. One day after a particularly bad trading day, my Uncle Joe took me aside and consoled me with some hard facts about how markets really work. And he told me this story. You see, my Uncle Joe owns a unique company, which has given him an insider's perspective on how stock price movement is managed. His company, Widgets and Company, and Widgets is just like an arbitrary thing. It's not really anything. It's just for the story. Widgets and Company is the only company in the state that distributes widgets, and it does so under license from the government. It has been buying and selling its unique widgets for many years. These widgets have an intrinsic value. They never break, and the number in circulation at any time is much the same. Being a reasonably clever man with many years of experience managing his business, my uncle soon realized that just buying and selling his widgets to customers was, in fact, rather dull. The amount of money he made each time he bought and sold was quite small, and the number of transactions per day was quite low. Setting up kind of the background, so bear with it. In addition, he also had all the running expenses of his office, his warehouse, and his staff. Something would have to be done. Having given the problem some thought, he wondered what would happen if he mentioned to a neighbor that widgets would soon be in short supply. He knew his neighbor was a terrible gossip, so this was almost as effective as putting an advertisement in the local paper. He also knew from checking his warehouse that he had enough widgets in stock to meet any increased demand should this plan be successful. The following day, he met his neighbor, told him the whatever, and begged him to keep it to himself. His neighbor assured him that he would and wouldn't breathe a word, and his lips were sealed. Several days passed, and widget sales remained flat. However, a week or so, sales started to pick up. With more customers coming to his warehouse and buying in larger quantities, it seemed his plan was starting to work, and everyone was happy. His customers were happy as they knew that widgets would soon be in short supply, and so their value would increase. Uncle Joe was happy because he was selling more widgets and making more money every day. Then he started to think, with everyone buying his widgets, what would happen if he raised his prices? After all, he was the only supplier in town, and the demand was high at the moment. The following day, he announced a price increase, but still believing there would soon be a widget shortage, his customers continued to buy, even in larger quantities. At the end of weeks past, he gradually increased his prices higher and higher, but still the buying continued. A few of his more astute customers started to sell their widgets back to him, taking in their profits, but Uncle Joe didn't mind as he still had plenty of willing buyers. This was a good news for Uncle Joe until one day he suddenly realized that some alarm that his warehouse was now looking very empty. Indeed, he also started to notice that some volume of sales was each day was decreasing. He decided to keep moving prices up so everyone would think that the situation was unchanged. But now he had a new problem. His original plan was too successful. How on earth was he going to be able to persuade people, all his customers, to sell the widgets back to him so that he could continue his business? So he's almost out of widgets. The price was high. He's made a ton of money. So he pondered this problem for several days with no clear solution. Then, quite by chance, he met his neighbor again in town. The man drew him to one side and inquired whether the rumor he had heard was true. Inquiring into what that rumor might be, Uncle Joe learned his neighbor had heard that another, much bigger widget distribution company was setting up business in the area. Being clever, Uncle Joe realized the Providence had given him the answer on a plate. Appearing crestfallen, he admitted that the rumor was true and that his business would suffer badly. More importantly, widget values were likely to drop dramatically in price. As they parted company, Uncle Joe chuckled to himself as of having such good fortune that he had such a helpful gossip for a neighbor. Within days, he had queues of customers outside his warehouse doors begging him to buy back their widgets. With so many people selling, he dropped the price quickly, making people even more desperate to sell than before their widgets became worthless. As the price fell further, more and more people cracked under the pressure. Uncle Joe was now buying back an enormous volume of widgets. After several weeks, the panic selling was over. A few people had been brave enough to hold out under the pressure. Uncle Joe now started to sell widgets again at their old levels from his warehouse full of stock. He didn't mind if it was quiet for a few months, as he had made a great deal of money very quickly. He could afford to take it easy. His overhead expenses were covered, and he could pay himself, his staff, a healthy bonus. Everyone soon forgot where the rumor had started, and life returned to normal. Normal, that is, until Uncle Joe started thinking one day, I wonder if we could do that again, if that would work again. So, what you take out of that, I hope you got the what that's trying to tell you, all this stuff, the news, mania, it's all part of the plan. This is not a new trick. And trying to get retail buyers in here and stuff like that, this is just the latest thing with crypto. This has happened since markets have been around. This is not a new story. This is not a new trick. That story that was written just that story was written a long time ago, but you see it over and over again. The hype. I mean, in this case, it was the widget supply was going to be short. So they thought that, the price of widgets would increase. So, everyone buys it. I mean, it's the same concept with markets. And then the rumor come on that, the price of widgets can go down because the supply is going to be diluted or whatever. And then people freak out, the panic selling, but he wanted the widgets back. So he's buying them at a discount, and then let things cool off for a while. And then let me see if that'll work again. And it will work again. It does work. It works every time. So I know that was a little dry, and for everybody to sit through it, but it does, in my opinion, and other people that I know that are pretty smart that have read it, it really does kind of put in context how that works from a psychological standpoint, especially with retail and the mania phases of markets when you have these bull runs. Story time with Ron. Yeah, and like I said, I know it's a little dry, but it is what it is. Yeah, man, me and Josh, we're gonna do it up for sure. Bitcoin at 70K, what a buy. Yeah, and the bad thing about Bitcoin going to 70K, obviously it's alts. It's what's gonna happen to alts. That is gonna be rough. But we talked about the CME gap. There's no reason the CME gap has to be filled. Other than that, Bitcoin looks pretty good to me. It looks like it's consolidating in the range. It's been in the range for 12 weeks now, so almost getting close to 3 months. That's long enough for it to break out. I would rather it stay in the range longer, even though it's boring and, we want movement to happen, because like Wyckoff's laws say, the longer it ranges, the better the breakout. The more as long as it's accumulating, that range is not distributing. So how do we know if it's accumulating and not distributing? Well, we look at the big wallet addresses and what big people are doing. And we did that. Okay. We already know MicroStrategy. Not that MicroStrategy is the best, indicator, but they're still gobbling up a ton of BTC. The ETFs, we know that they're buying lots. We showed how the wallet holders, small wallets are selling, big wallets are buying. Like everything that you can look at really to determine if it's an accumulation or distribution. Everything points to accumulation. And as long as BTC is still healthy and still going to be in this uptrend and still get higher prices, then the alt season can still come, and I'm even seeing like some people that know what they're talking about in a long time. They're starting to say, well, we'll get an alt season, but it probably won't be very big. It probably won't be very long. They're kind of like backing up a little bit. Like even they're getting scared. I don't really care what other people think. I think it could be huge. AI is just huge right now. Nothing's a guarantee, not financial advice, like I say, but I just can't really see a world where AI, this narrative is so big right now, and it marries up to crypto so well. And yet, you're not going to get anything materialized from it. You know, gaming, look at all these gaming projects. RWA, you know, with all these people talking about RWA and stuff like this, it's hard for me to believe all these things developing and they're just going to go to, you know, to nothing. You know, and we talked about some other streams, you know, Marty Party and reporting how market makers Wintermute in particular has been suppressing price with assets sent to them by Binance. So market makers are the ones that really, you know, if they don't want price to go up, they're going to do what they can to keep it down, and vice versa. They're also the ones that'll probably contact the news and try to manipulate people that way. But why would not market makers not want, you know, this run to happen? And the market may not go up until they're ready for it to. So in any event, if anybody's got any questions, I'll sign off here in just a minute. I appreciate everybody for sticking until the end of the stream. And, you know, in my opinion, I still think that BTC looks good. As long as BTC is primed to go up more, then I still think that alts have a chance. And you want to get people so bearish that as soon as you get a green candle, so many of them are going to cheat out of their bags because they're like, I was just so much pain, losing unrealized, you know, while it bounces every day. My unrealized is going down more and more all the time. And I just got to get out of this with, you know, I'm just lucky to get out of it with this and what I have now. So you're going to see a lot of people selling early. But if they break out of these kind of ranges with a big green or good sized green candle, especially closing on their high, that's the breakout. That's when like the best is yet to come. And that's when a lot of these people that are saying altcoin season's canceled, if we get that candle like I'm talking about, that's when a lot of them are going to sell. And you want to see high volume on that candle. You know, that's showing a change out of a lot of these people's hands, a lot of these smaller holders, retail, whatever you want to call them, and it's going into market makers and, you know, bigger entities and things like that. So anyway, hopefully that story helped out everybody understand the psychology of how these market cycles tend to work. And ETH does need to have its run. I agree with that, brother. And, you know, they have done some development on ETH. If you see how low that ETH gas fees are, that is from some development that they've been doing supposedly. So, and they also, the Ethereum Foundation said they're not going to be selling ETH anymore, which it wasn't like huge amounts, but it was enough. It was a bad look. I guess they're doing something, borrowing off of it, off Aave now or something like that. So then you shouldn't see the ETH Foundation selling ETH anymore. Chuck to $1. That's right, baby. So Chuck, we'll have some things coming for Chuck in the upcoming months. We definitely want the market to get a little bit better, but we'll be releasing some things and got some more things planned to try to get Chuck back on the right track in an uptrend. I think if we can get Chuck above 8 million market cap and close, then there's a big gap between that and the all-time high. So if we get that, then I think that maybe we can march back up to all-time high. We'll be trying to do that. All right, well, I appreciate everybody who tuned in, and I'll catch you guys next time. I'm going to try to do one soon about coins I like in the Solana ecosystem. All right, so I'll see you guys then. Later, guys.